Yo, call me a city escape. I'm pulling out my cake. Hey, everybody, what's up? Welcome back to the Games Cage today. And only today, we are here to talk about something a little bit sad, but also kind of happy. And that is how we almost lost Sonic the Hedgehog. So make sure to sit down, subscribe to your boy, enjoy the video, and let's just get right into it, bro. For those that are like, Fidel, where did this come from? We're about to hit the 35th anniversary. Is everything okay? Well, this is where this conversation I want to talk about has sparked from. So Takashi Iizuka says, Sega once asked him to help save Sonic during one of the franchise's lowest points. In this newest Games Radar interview, he thanked fans of the sport across the game. So I want you guys to watch this just so we see how dire the situation was in the 2010s over here.
35 years of Sonic titles coming out, and I know some people may think, oh, we've just been always on the up and up, but there's been a lot of up and downs in our history. There was even a time when Sega said, you know what, we don't need you to make any more Sonic games. We're done with Sonic. That internally was a conversation that did happen.
Oh, that hurt.
When I first moved to
That
America,
hurt.
Sonic was really at a low point, and they said, Iizuka-san, if you don't go over to America and start,
Holy.
this up and raising Sonic back up, Sonic is going to end, and we're just going to be done.
Jeez.
It's really, thanks to the fans for all of the support we've gotten.
Oh my God.
Each one of our titles, it's an investment of a lot of creators' time and energy.
Hell yeah.
And we need the titles to sell in order for Sega as a company to say, yeah, we want more Sonic games. And our fans have been there this entire time supporting us, whether it's with movies or animation or whatever it is that we're doing. The fans are there, and they've been really supportive the past 35 years. So I'd just like to say a big thanks to all the fans that have been there and continue to be there. So
wow. Yeah, no, this, like, when I saw this video, this shit got me upset. You know what I mean? Like, and like, obviously, like, at the end of the day, like, we're like, okay, we won, look where we're at. But like, this just sparked a lot of emotions in me. I'd be like, damn, like, Sonic was almost that guy. Sonic was almost going to be the, mascot platformer that fades away, the character that, imagine we'd be watching all these events being like, I hope they bring back Sonic, like, he literally, like, just straight up said that at some point Sega is ready to be done with Sonic. Like, that shit's crazy to me. Like, that really was like, no way, and it just made me reflect a little bit about how genuinely, like, dire the 2010s were for Sonic. I mean, I cannot state how, like, bad it got. It's easy to look back on with maybe, some of you are younger, some roasting and glass. Like, I want y'all to really reflect at where we were at, right? Especially like post Generations, it just felt like everything just started tumbling for some weird reason. Like, look at this, right? For example, we got Sonic Generations in 2011. Now, mind you, like, this was already work that had to salvage. Like, basically, remember, Sonic 06 was basically the tanking moment, right? This was the moment where, boom, like, the game sold decently, but, like, the rep went significantly down. And then you got Secret Rings and Black Knight, which were Wii games, and so again, the rep went secretly down. Unleashed, as much as we like it, was not a critical darling. In fact, it actually scored, Sonic Unleashed scored lower than Sonic and the Secret Rings. I want you to think about that for a second. So, but then we did get Sonic Colors and Sonic Generations, which, like, those two were definitely like the high points. Like, all right, we're good. And then, boom, Sonic Lost World. I cannot stress how Sonic, this era, when we'll talk about Mania, but like this area over here as I'm dying, that's how sad this is making me. I'm literally dying. Of Lost World through Forces was just a weird era. And obviously, it doesn't help the Boom games. Now, this was all because of the partnership that Sonic Team went and did with Nintendo. For a lot of people that don't remember, during the Wii U era, Sega made a marketing deal with Nintendo, right? And they were like, all right, hey, we're going to partner with Nintendo on the Wii U to deliver 3 exclusives. And those 3 exclusives, think about this, ended up being Sonic Lost World, Mario and Sonic at the Winter Olympics, and what's it called? Sonic Boom, which, yikes. Now, mind you, think about how insane of a thing that is to do. Like, when you just came right off the success of Sonic Generations, and you are basically making your next 5 years of Sonic essentially exclusive to a platform that like was basically dying from the beginning, right? Like, I'm sure this like deal was potentially like sealed before the Wii U or something, but this was already like a massive issue, from the get-go of announcing the deal. Like, the games are one thing, but the deal itself already kind of locked Sonic in a weird position. One, especially with the Wii U, like, the Wii U was so heavily marketed for kids. All the marketing was like, little Timmy's. If you look at those old commercials, it's all kids, you know what I mean? And like, obviously Nintendo has always been for all ages, but we all know there is a stigma about the Wii U, especially where like it felt like a little Timmy device. And so you had that big issue, right? You have Sonic going basically into little Timmy device territory and the next 5 years of its games. Now, it doesn't help that those games also weren't great. Like, it'd be one thing if maybe like those games couldn't have sold well regardless because it was on the Wii U, but we're talking about games that didn't sell well and also weren't really great. I mean, look, there's some people that like Sonic Lost World, right? But it's a very okay game. I think like that's the general consensus. We all kind of agree with. Like, Lost World has some good ideas, but it's a very okay Sonic game, right? And obviously this was also when the writers changed for Sonic, around that time, and the story was whatever, and then you have a game that's kind of like, it's not even trying to be Sonic anymore. It's very like clean, corporate. It's trying to be like a Mario game in there. And of course, I mean, we can't talk about the 2010s a little bit without talking about Sonic Boom. Which Sonic Boom, man, like it's very funny to see. Like, I've seen now the people that have grown up with Sonic Boom that love Sonic Boom the show, right? Whereas like I remember, I think because I was around, I was in college when Sonic Boom was announced and released. I was around like 17, 18 at that time, and I just distinctively remember just not being into it at all. Like, even though there have been some great funny clips that have come out of like the cartoon, looking back now, at the time I was kind of checked out in a sense, you know what I mean? Because I'm like, well, I didn't even have a gaming PC, right? And so if you don't have a PC around that PS4 Wii U era, it's like, what? Like, okay, there's a cartoon that's going on Kids Channel for kids, which like I'm not watching at the time, right? The games are not good, like Sonic Boom and Lost World, right? And then you also, have basically nothing going on. And so I remember at this time being like, well, even me, like someone who's so in love with, with the franchise, like the games aren't even ported to consoles. It's like, what do I do? It's like, unless I go buy an Xbox, which again, in the 2010s, no one was buying an Xbox because PS4 was dominating. Like, it felt surreal, that like there was like almost no way to play older Sonic games. And so that 5-year stretch from like 2011 to 2017 was dire. And of course, we then jump to 2017 where things kind of like change, right? And this is probably where this Iizuka talking point comes from, where they said, hey, you got to go and fix something, bro, because we are almost done with this. Because 2017 comes around, right? We get the announcement of 2 titles, Sonic Mania and Sonic Forces. One is set to be the big ambitious game, Sonic Forces. The teaser trailer starts, well, what does it say? It says, from the guys who brought you Generations and Colors, right? And I'm like, okay, bro, like I remember being so insanely hyped from hearing that. And then obviously we know how Forces turned out. Like, Forces, even like from its marketing, like everything about Forces' marketing after the initial teaser started raising eyebrows. Like the initial teaser, people were like, the first gameplay teaser, people were picking apart because it was just a straight line. And then you got the trailer with the avatar, and then you had more looks at the game where like, it just showed Infinite's theme and people were making fun of how edgy it was. Like, it was a bad time. And obviously the release did not help. You know what I mean? Like the game launch, it was not great. It was very like middling. People were making memes of it, and literally the only saving grace, and the thing that might have saved Sonic as a whole, was Sonic Mania, right? Sonic Mania was a game that, funny enough, was meant to be the smaller scale game of 2017. And I think Sonic Mania ended up being probably one of the most important games in the entire franchise, right? You have a game that, okay, is celebrating the past, but one, it has some of the best sprite work you've ever seen. You know what I mean? It's got Tyson Hess on it. It's got great animators working on it, to animate a series. And that series ended up being Sonic Mania Adventures. If you look on YouTube, bro, Sonic Mania Adventures pulling insane views, 100 million plus on all episodes compiled together. There's tens of millions on the animated opening they did for the game. Like, the game didn't end up selling as much as it deserved to. That game should have sold like 10 million, but it has sold quite a few million at this point. But the reason I say that, Mania wasn't Mania didn't do everything, right? Because at the end of the day, it was still a mainly, unless you bought the physical collector's edition, it was mainly a digital title that a lot of fans and people were passionate about. But Mania was so beloved by the public that it kind of planted the seed and raised an eyebrow of should we just do this for Sonic? Is this what we need? And again, this also still doesn't look great on Sonic Team's part, right? Because they have Christian Whitehead and basically a small group of indie teams, or a small group of people working on this game. And so you have that plus, Sonic Forces coming out of Sonic Team. I can see why Sega was hey guys, we've gone, we're on 8 years plus without a banger, since Sonic Generations. Can we we got nothing for this franchise. We are starting to run out of juice. Maybe you got to make more of these Mania games, right? Maybe you got to do something else. So obviously then comes one of the longest gaps from a 3D game, and that is the 2017. I cannot believe this, by the way. I forget how bad the gap was too. Think about that 5 years, or at least 4 years before the marketing side. That was, Sonic Forces to Sonic Frontiers, right? Sonic Frontiers ends up being teased in 2021. But that was a long time to go with Forces marketing, Forces merchandise, Forces, stuff. And it was not great. But before Frontiers comes something that, we all know is the Sonic movie, right? Sonic movie, unironically, is probably what truly saved Sonic the Hedgehog. And one thing people forget about Sonic movie is Sonic movie was already on thin ice. Remember the initial teaser, Ugly Sonic, one of the biggest press attacks of all time on something. You get the director being all right, our bad. They recruit Tyson Hess, who worked on Sonic Comics, right, and who worked on Sonic Mania, to come in and redesign Sonic and make him look good. Boom, right? Trailer gets re-revealed, for another time for Sonic movie. Fantastic press. They fixed the design. People are now excited for this movie. And again, this movie somehow, some way turned out great, but also this movie could have killed the series. Let me tell you something. When did this movie come out? Valentine's. That was a joke, but when was that? Valentine's 2020. That was about 3 weeks before the world went into shutdown pandemic mode. I cannot stress to you enough how disastrous this would have been for the franchise, man. This would have been cataclysmically bad for it, because then, remember, during this time, all movies were going to digital, right? All the theaters were shut down. All these movies were just going for digital releases. I feel had Sonic movie not made the box office and been a box office success, right? Because I think what Sonic movie ended up making over 100 million, right? Let me look it up to be Sonic movie won box office. It ended up making about 170 million internationally, which is unbelievable. For a movie that could have straight up been cooked had it released during COVID. I really feel had this movie gone digital during the pandemic, it truly might have ruined its chances of being a big success and giving the hope we needed. Because then you have, all right, boom, right? This movie is taking over. People are oh my God, somehow a Sonic movie is doing incredibly well. We're starting to see this success roll through, right? And that, gives Sonic Team a bit of leeway now. All right, now Sega can look at Sonic and be hey, this movie made a crazy amount of money. You guys have a chance here, you know what I mean? And obviously they're working on Frontiers in the back end Right. You know, throughout that time, they were doing the Sonic 30th anniversary plans. They announced Sonic Colors Ultimate, which, you know, was not really a great success. But then you get the announcement of a Sonic Origins that's going to bring the classic titles back. And you get the first teaser of Sonic Frontiers. And boom, like the marketing begins, right? And everything, I feel like the marketing for Sonic Frontiers was something that was also a little shaky, but also very hopeful. I mean, you were getting, you know, music drops from 1OK Rock. You know what I mean? You got a Supersonic teaser for a TGS trailer. You had the gameplay from IGN review, which was not good, but you had a big stage at the Game Awards. At the Game Awards, you know, I'll never forget one of my favorite moments of all time, Game Awards 2021, right? You guys all remember this fondly. It was the double hit of, you know, Sonic, what's it called? Sonic Frontiers teaser into the Sonic Movie 2 trailer, and like at that point it felt like everything was just rolling. Things are now looking up. People are excited again. We get the success of Sonic Frontiers, right? And then we get the success of Sonic Movie 2, and at that, like, I feel like Movie 2 and Frontiers succeeding was like the beginning of really everyone being like, all right, Sonic is back. You know what I mean? Like that truly felt like the moment Sonic was back. It was when Movie 2 did incredibly well and Frontiers made it so that, wow, critics aren't hating Sonic. You know, did it review incredibly well? No, it was still in the 7s and 8s review-wise, right? But there was something about the game that sparked so much hope. It was obviously the music, the energy, the tone, the gameplay. Like everything about Sonic Frontiers screamed, hey, we're trying to make Sonic cool again. You know, and that I feel like was enough for people to go crazy. You had the modding scene was alive, animations, fan art, everything. And of course, like, it cannot be stressed enough how important these Sonic, you know, fans are to this. I mean, as much as people complain about certain Sonic fans, like, Sonic fans have been carrying incredibly well. I mean, the fan music they make, the animations, the mods, and the fan games, like, this is all stuff that, like, doesn't go unnoticed and is unreplaceable by any community ever. So if anyone ever tries to tell you that, like, Sonic community is full of awful people, that's just Twitter being awful, right? And some bad apples. But like the majority of people are people like you guys watching, people that enjoy this content, people that are making stuff, people that are supporting people making stuff, you know, whether it's even supporting creators like me talking about this stuff and having everything be, you know, positive and joyful out there and trying to do the best for, you know, the franchise and make sure like it succeeds so that we get better games, because we all want better games. We want Sonic Frontiers 2 to be fantastic. We want the next mainline game to cook, you know? So yeah, I don't know. I know I'm yapping a lot, but like this Izuka interview just made me sad to think about. There was a point where Sonic could have been gone, right? And it got me reflecting a little bit about how dire the situation was. And you know, when people, like, it cannot be undermined what a good era we're in. Like, we get constant animations. Like, I have friends, you know, including Aru, who will literally be like, I'm jealous of, you know, how Sonic is with you, like how you're always getting something. Like, yeah, we got Shadow Generations, which was fantastic, right? For a small, like, you know, little teaser type tidbit game. You know, we had Sonic Frontiers DLC, which was so much fun. We have Sonic Racing Crossroads, which like is such a great arcade race. Like, we're at the point where we can get great spin-offs, great main games. And I know we are patient. We are patiently waiting for that next mainline game, right? But when we get it, it's probably going to be something fantastic. I think Sonic Team is trying to make something crazy. I think we still need sauce in the 2D game department. I think we can all agree with that. But we're on such a great upward trajectory. And I think we need a great anime. You know, we had Sonic Prime, which also wasn't really my thing. And I think you guys kind of all agree with that. That it was cool, but nothing crazy. But I think, you know, if we next up, like, fix what 2D Sonic is and fix, like, what a Sonic anime could be, I feel like we're on top of the world. Banger movies, banger animations, banger 2D games, and banger 3D games. Voila, series all the way up. And it doesn't help, you know, it does help that we have, like, you know, they have, why am I saying we have, like, we're making their money. Like, they have such a big budget now because the movies are succeeding. I mean, I cannot stress enough how the movies have been such a major part of the marketing. I mean, Sonic Movie 3, right? Like, the Year of Shadow was such a incredible success. Like, the Sonic movies in the box office have now collectively made $1 billion, which is unbelievable. So Sonic Movie 4 is probably going to be massive. They're probably going to have, you know, the next mainline game try to be next year to coincide with that release, and it's going to be unbelievable. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say. You know, I just wanted to talk a little bit about how what a crazy time it's been. You know, what a crazy time it is to think about a world where Sonic could have been not around. And that makes me sad. I mean, the fact that we would be watching these presentations, like, and sitting there, like, you know, thinking about how, like, Crash and Spyro and Rayman are and all these characters where we're like, I hope we get a new game soon. You know, maybe they'll remake one. You know, unironically, you probably would have gotten a Sonic Adventure remake had we not, you know, had Sonic Frontiers not done well. I think they would have hit the emergency, hit the glass button, be like, you know what, let's just go into remakes and see how they do. And then when those do well, then we get a new game. So that's why I'm really happy when Iizuka does say things like, hey, I'm not really interested in remakes right now. You know, I kind of want to make new stuff. I respect it, man. Keep making new stuff, keep cooking. But yeah, that is the story of how we almost lost Sonic the Hedgehog. It was a bad time. It was a bad time. The Sonic Boom days. I think genuinely my least favorite days were the Sonic Boom days, where it felt like Sonic was just catering to, you know, toddlers almost. You know what I mean? It's like, of course, Sonic is for all ages, and a lot of these mascot platformers that we love are meant for a younger audience. But I really do feel like the ones that truly succeed are the ones that like reward everybody. You know, like Mario is expert, you know, at that, right? Where it's like, all right, like, or Nintendo in general, right? Where it's like, all right, kids are meant to get into this, but like to master those games 100% and get everything, like it skews a little bit older because you want to think about it, you want to watch the videos, you want to figure out how to get all these collectibles, like, and that's how I've always felt with Sonic, you know, like trying to get higher ranks, trying to be better at the games, and obviously the story, the energy, always felt like, you know, I felt like a cool dude playing Sonic. And so, yeah, that's why the Boom era for me was so like bad, you know, because it was just like, oh god, like, you know, like now I just feel like there's nothing for me here. There's no sauce. Where's the Sonic sauce that I'm here for? And now that it's back, it's better than ever. I cannot be happier. So guys, please let me know in the comment section below, what do you think about the story? You know, did it give you happiness about where we're at? Did it make you a little sad? What does it make you want for the future? As always, let me know in the comment section below. I love you. Thank you all for watching. Of course, I'll see you all next time. Peace out.